My name is Emily Carson, and tonight, my family is about to learn the secret I've kept for 8 years. The Riverside Ballroom shimmered in gold light, every chandelier competing with the diamond on my sister's hand. 200 guests circled Olivia like she was royalty. Her laughter rehearsed. Her ring lifted just high enough to catch the camera flash. I stood near the bar, a quiet spectator with a glass of Merlot, the invisible sibling in a room built to adore her. My parents glowed, asking about cut, clarity, and the man who could afford it. Their voices bright with pride that had never belonged to me. I smiled when eyes met mine, offered polite congratulations, and slipped back into the blur of soft jazz and perfume. The rhythm of their celebration pulsed around me, a familiar theater I'd stopped auditioning for long ago. No one noticed that I hadn't spoken more than 20 words all evening. Then I heard a voice that broke through the music. "Sorry, I'm late. Flight out of Seattle was a mess," said Uncle Samuel, his tone warm, his presence grounding. He hugged Olivia, congratulated her fiancé, then turned to me with a grin that held years of genuine affection. "Emily, good to see you. You look incredible. Still living in that house by Lakeview Hill?" The air tightened. My mother's glass froze midair. My father's smile faltered. "What house?" he asked quietly, confusion threading through his voice. I took a slow sip of wine, the taste calm and deliberate. "The one I bought 8 years ago," I said, meeting his eyes. For a moment, no one spoke, as if the music itself had gone silent. Samuel chuckled, oblivious to the tension. "Beautiful place. View of the lake is unreal." The conversation around us died completely. Olivia blinked, her hand lowering, the diamond suddenly small under the ballroom lights. I didn't say another word. I didn't need to. In that suspended hush, every unspoken judgment, every dismissal of who I was, began to tremble. The night had only just begun, and the truth, my quiet, patient truth, was finally stepping into the light. My father was the first to speak. His voice clipped, almost formal. "Samuel, what house are you talking about?" he asked, still searching for the joke that wasn't there. Samuel blinked, realizing the sudden chill. "The one in Lakeview Hill." "Of course," he said easily. "You told me you'd built a home office overlooking the water." "Emily, 29. My mother's hand trembled against her glass. "Home office?" she repeated, her tone pitched between disbelief and alarm. I nodded once, keeping my voice steady. "Yes, the one attached to my house. It's where I run my division's analytics lab." Olivia's laugh came sharp and brittle. "Division? What division? You work in some cubicle doing spreadsheets, don't you?" I turned to her. "I manage a federal department, digital forensics, FBI field office in Chicago. I have been." The words landed like a dropped plate. My father's face went blank, his lips shaping the word FBI as if it burned. My mother blinked rapidly, as though she could erase what she'd heard. "You mean you're a government employee?" she managed. "I'm a director," I said quietly. "We analyze cybercrime evidence for national investigations. My team reports directly to the deputy director." Samuel smiled faintly. "She's not just an employee, Diane. She runs half the Midwest." "Ace." Olivia's eyes narrowed, searching for a weakness. "Since when does the government pay that much?" she said, forcing a smirk. "You act like you're some secret agent." I met her starty. "My salary is around $310,000, plus security clearance bonuses. It's not glamorous, but it's meaningful." My father's jaw tightened. "310,000, he repeated. "A year?" I didn't look away. "Yes, Dad. A year?" Do. My mother shook her head, her voice breaking between pride and fear. You never told us. Why would you keep something like that from your family? I took a breath, letting the quiet settle before answering. Because every time I tried to talk about my work, the conversation turned to Olivia's new job or her latest award. After a while, silence was easier. Samuel nodded, his tone low. I told you she was brilliant. Richard, the Bureau doesn't hand out those titles for nothing. Aita. Olivia's laughter returned. Louder now. More brittle. Oh, come on. You're making it sound like she's saving the world. It's just computers and data. I let her words pass without defense, the same way I had for years. It's evidence and justice. I said simply, the data we analyze helps convict people who steal lives and futures. So yes, it matters. For a moment, no one spoke. The music drifted faintly from the other room, too soft to hide the weight between us. I didn't need to see their faces to know what they were thinking. How had they missed this? How had the invisible daughter built a life they couldn't measure? My mother's eyes searched mine, desperate for something familiar, and found none. Emily, she whispered. What else have we not known? I looked at her, not with anger, but with a kind of calm she couldn't understand. A lot, I said, my voice even. But this is where it starts. Samuel broke the silence first, his voice careful but steady. I stayed at Emily's place last spring, he said, glancing at me. That house on Lakeview Hill is one of the most peaceful spots I've ever been in. My father's expression hardened, his confusion turning to disbelief. What house on Lakeview Hill? He asked, as if repetition could change the truth. The one I bought 8 years ago, I said. My mother's voice cracked. Bought? I nodded. Yes. Paid it off 5 years later. It's mine. Olivia let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. You? You don't own a house. You rent that apartment by the university. Her words hung there, brittle and childish. I rented it, I replied evenly. During my doctorate. The house came later. Oh, my father frowned, struggling to piece together a version of me that fit this story. How could you afford that? Emily? He asked. You were just starting out. I met his eyes. I put down $240,000 and financed the rest. Then I used my signing bonus to pay down the mortgage. His mouth opened, then closed again. Signing bonus, he repeated. Samuel leaned back slightly. Helix Analytics offered her that when she left academia for the Bureau. Smart investment on both sides. Olivia crossed her arms, her tone dripping disbelief. So you just casually bought $1 million house? That's insane. I looked at her calmly. It was $1. 2 million. Now it's worth about $1. Woo. The number landed heavy in the space between us. My mother shook her head as if to clear it. This doesn't make sense, she whispered. Why would you hide something like that from us? I exhaled slowly. I didn't hide it. Mom, I mentioned it years ago. You asked if I could handle the maintenance, then changed the subject to Olivia's promotion. I know. The quiet that followed was thick, uncomfortable, filled with a weight none of them knew how to lift. My father rubbed his forehead. Maybe we misunderstood, he murmured. Samuel's tone cut through gently. You didn't misunderstand. You just didn't listen. Olivia glared at him. You make it sound like we ignored her on purpose. I looked at her, my voice level. You didn't have to do it on purpose. It just became normal. Yes. My mother's eyes glistened, guilt breaking through confusion. I didn't know you were doing so well, she said softly. I didn't know you were this successful. I smiled faintly. Not with pride, but with something closer to fatigue. That's the point. Mom, you didn't know because you never asked. Her lips parted as if to protest, then closed again. I could see the moment the realization hit her, the quiet ache of understanding that silence, not cruelty, had done the most damage. Samuel's tone softened, but his words carried weight. You all saw the article about that international laundering ring the FBI cracked last year, he said, his eyes never leaving my father. That was Emily's team. She led the forensic audit that broke the case. My mother blinked as if she hadn't heard him right. That was you? She whispered. You were in the papers? I nodded. The work. Not me. I don't need my name in headlines. It's stud. Olivia exhaled a short laugh. Oh, please. You're exaggerating. You can't seriously expect us to believe you took down an international crime ring. I met her gaze without anger. It wasn't just me. It was a team effort. But I wrote the algorithm that traced the financial routing through 4 shell corporations in 2 countries. It identified $1, $2 billion in fraudulent transfers. The silence that followed was heavier than disbelief. It was recognition fighting its way through denial. Samuel smiled faintly. Her program's now part of the Bureau's permanent toolset, he said. The director even mentioned her by name at the annual briefing. My father turned to me slowly. The director? I nodded. He congratulated my team for the conviction rate. It wasn't about pride. It was about protecting people who never even knew their lives were being stolen from underneath them. My mother's voice trembled. You never told us that. Emily. I let out a quiet breath. I tried. Once. Thanksgiving. 5 years ago. You asked if I was still doing that computer thing. Then you turned to Olivia to ask about her company's new fashion line. Ass. Olivia bristled, her tone cutting. You think you're some kind of hero, don't you? Sitting there, acting all superior because no one clapped for your invisible job. I looked at her evenly. No. I think I've been doing my job because it matters, whether anyone notices or not. My father's face softened for the first time that night. This is more than I ever imagined. Samuel's voice was calm but edged. That's because you never asked what she imagined. I won. Just then, a voice came from behind me. Emily. I didn't know you'd be here, said Tessa Monroe, my colleague from the Bureau. She smiled warmly at my family before turning to me. Congratulations on the commendation. The director mentioned you again this morning. My mother stared at her. Speechless. Commendation? Tessa nodded. For her work on the Cybercrime Division expansion, you should be proud. It's not every day the Bureau calls someone irreplaceable. To have it. Olivia's face went pale, her confidence cracking. Irreplaceable? She muttered, as though the word itself betrayed her. My father swallowed hard, his voice low. Emily. Why didn't you ever let us in on any of this? I met his eyes. Because every time I did, you changed the subject. And somewhere along the way, I stopped needing you to listen. The truth sat there, simple and immovable. Tessa gave my arm a brief squeeze. We'll see you Monday. Director, she said softly before stepping away. My mother's breath caught on the word she'd never expected to hear attached to my name. I didn't correct it. Some truths no longer needed explaining. The conversation that followed was slow, uncertain, as if they were learning a new language they should have spoken years ago. I stood in it quietly, not to prove anything, but because after years of silence, being heard was no longer the goal, it was just the sound of balance returning. My father spoke first, his voice rough. Emily, we've always loved you. Maybe we didn't show it right, but we never stopped caring. I looked at him, the weight of old conversations echoing in my chest. Then tell me. Dad, I said softly. What's my title? What city do I live in? What do I actually do every day? His silence answered everything I already knew. My mother reached for me, her words trembling. You can't hold that against us forever. We were just proud of both of you in different ways. I smiled faintly. You were proud of Olivia loudly and publicly. You loved me quietly. In theory, there's a difference. Olivia's voice rose behind her. You make it sound like we ignored you on purpose. I turned to her. You didn't ignore me. You just looked past me. And that's worse. Samuel's tone cut through before anyone could speak. She could dismantle a criminal network. And you'd still ask if Olivia wanted dessert. My father's head dropped, shame clouding his face. That's not fair, he muttered. We didn't know. I met his eyes. You didn't want to know. Every time I opened the door, you closed it with a compliment for someone else. My mother's tears fell silently, her voice small. We can change. Emily, we can start over. I shook my head gently. You can try. But I don't need you to. I wanted your pride once. Now I just want peace. Olivia scoffed, bitterness lacing her words. You think you're better than us? I took a breath, steady and calm. No, I just stopped needing to prove I wasn't less. Samuel's eyes met mine. Approval, quiet but certain. You've said what needed saying, he murmured. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The silence stretched, full of truths they'd spent years avoiding. My father finally whispered, What do you want from us? I thought about it. The question both too late and too familiar. Nothing, I said, and meant it. The word landed softly, the way closure does when it no longer hurts. In that stillness, I felt something shift not in them, but in me. The kind of freedom that comes only after you stop waiting to be seen. Samuel caught up to me near the exit, his voice low but steady. They'll call you tomorrow, he said. They'll want to fix it, to rewrite the story. I met his eyes and nodded once. They can try, I told him, but I don't owe them comfort. I only owe myself peace. He smiled faintly, the kind that carried both pride and sorrow. Then you've already won, he said. Outside, the night air felt cool and honest. I walked to my car without looking back, the laughter from the ballroom fading behind me like a song I'd finally stopped knowing the words to. For years, I had tried to earn a place at their table. Tonight, I realized I'd built my own. The quiet around me wasn't empty, it was earned. When I reached home, the lights of the lake shimmered through the windows, steady and unpretentious. I thought of the conversations that would follow. The apologies shaped more by guilt than understanding, and felt no urgency to answer. The truth had been spoken, and that was enough. Standing in that calm, I understood what freedom really sounded like. I no longer needed to be seen, because I had finally seen myself. If you've ever been unseen, remember this: your worth doesn't need witnesses. The world may overlook your quiet victories, but silence has its own kind of power. Let your truth speak when you're ready, not when they are. Subscribe, and stay for stories that remind you strength can be gentle.